Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Moondrop Kadenz, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Shenzhen Audio for providing the Moondrop Kadenz for a review. Greatly appreciate it. Shenzhen Audio, you rock. Alright, so the Moondrop Kadenz, this will set you back $190 from your bank account. It is a 10mm ULT Gen 2 dynamic driver configuration. The diaphragm is a TAC diamond-coated dome composite, 35 ohms of impedance, 122 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 8 Hz to 21 kHz. The Moondrop Kadenz comes in this black box with a white sleeve. You get some artistic flair here on the front, some techie type stuff on the back side, a little bit of branding on each side, sliding off that sleeve, and you get a black box, says Moondrop on it, and then you open it up, you get a little flap here, says Moondrop, a little bit of information about how to connect your cable, and then you have an area for a carrying case, IEMs to sit, and an accessory box. The accessories that you get that carrying case, it's circular, you get some little white stitching around it, a little bit of branding on the top, hard shell, nice and small, should fit in most bags and some pockets. Undoing the zipper, you open it up, you have an area here for the cadence to sit, and then there's this useless little pouch up top, which I don't know why they put it in. But anyways, I like this case, nice and small, and with that hard shell, should protect the cadence quite well. They also include this little carrying pouch, which really isn't big enough to carry anything. You get a bunch of paperwork and tips. So you get this nice little carrying case, and then you get two types of small, medium, and large tips. You get your Moondrop spring tips, and then some pretty standard olive grape shaped tips. And I find that the tips do make a difference. The spring tips were the ones that I preferred, and I found that they were comfortable and sounded good. I found that the gray tips here kind of turned the cadence into a V-shaped sound and recessed the mids a little bit and really emphasized the uppers and the lowers. And the mids didn't have quite the presence that they have, and also didn't sound quite as open and as deep and layered as it does with the spring tip. So I actually preferred the spring tip, and those are the ones that I used. The one thing that's not included by Moondrop in the accessories is a pair of tweezers, and I highly recommend that you use these. And why do I say that? The spring tips, when they get put on the nozzle, they are pretty much on there permanently. They are extremely hard to get off. They're very tight on the nozzle, and so I found I had to use tweezers to get them off without breaking them and ripping them. I found that tweezers helped to be able to grip them a little bit better and pull them off the nozzle. Speaking of nozzles, you get 3 different sizes of nozzles. Now this is a very interesting and unique thing that Moondrop is doing. These are not filters. This is not a filter. This is an adjuster, a different size adjustment of nozzle lengths. And so you get 3 different sizes. You get a little bit shorter, a little medium size, and longer. I actually prefer the longer. So depending on what preference you have as far as insertion in your ears or how big your ears are, I highly recommend that you change those out and find the one that fits you the best. Do not change. They do not change sonics whatsoever. The things that they give you the benefits of is a better seal and more comfort. So I use the longer length, but these are not sonic filters. They all sound alike. You also get a couple other things with the Cadence. Moondrop provides a 4.4 to 3.5 adapter. The cable that Moondrop provides only comes in 4.4, so if you do not have a device that uses 4.4 and you only have 3.5, they include an adapter for that. And then they include the Echo B, which is a 4.4 balanced USB-C DAC amp dongle. Now the Echo B is fantastic. I was rather impressed at how well it pairs with the Cadence. This is an excellent pairing, and I actually like it just as well as some of my high dollar dongles. And so it's nice that Moondrop includes this. This reminds me a lot of the Moondrop Dawn and Dawn Pro sounds. Very neutral, very clean and clear, very even keeled, and has a very natural tone and timbre. Very well detailed and resolving. I really like this dongle, and it especially pairs well with the Cadence, and I'm glad that Moondrop included it. It's a nice touch. All right, so let's talk about the cable that Moondrop includes with the Cadence. So it's a 2-pin connection. You have nice ear hooks here. The tension is very good for this cable. It is a little bit on the thick side and a little bit on the stiff side. I do find that the cable tends to twist and tangle just a little bit here from the split up. I do wish that I had just a little bit more control and maybe was a little softer. But overall, it feels very durable and very strong. So there is that going for it. I like this cable. It reminds me a lot of the cable that came with the Moondrop Kato. You have a nice split here. It's a little bit on the large side. And then you have the termination of 4.4. That is the only termination that Moondrop offers with the Cadence. Overall, I like this cable. It is a little bit on the stiff side. I wish that it had just a little bit more of a softness and wasn't quite as stiff, but it is fairly well controlled. It does tangle up just a little bit. The Moondrop Cadence. Very nice looking IEM. They are heavy, extremely heavy. They put a lot of pressure on the ear hooks and a lot of weight in your ears. These things are hefty. Very nicely built, very durable, and a very subtle looking aluminum. Very minimal branding on the shells. I find that the back has these little ridges in it, so it's not a smooth stone, even though it is a step-up design. Has quite an aggressive angle for the nozzle. And then, of course, you just twist it, and those nozzles come off. There's the long nozzle. Fairly easy to put the nozzles on and change out to get the proper fit for you. Let's put some tips on and talk about the comfort and isolation. The Moondrop Cadence, once you put these tips on, they're pretty much permanent, but I find that the spring tip fit me the best and offered the best isolation out of the other tips that Moondrop included. I also found them to be extremely comfortable. So I can wear the Moondrop Cadence for about 4 to 5 hours before I really have to take a break. Even with the significant weight that the Cadence has, I find them to be very, very comfortable. They just fit in my ears and disappear, and I don't really notice that weight of them at all. I was rather surprised at that. I would have thought that with the heaviness of them, that they'd be pulling down my ear and being uncomfortable. I had no problems. Isolation of outside noises is fairly good, probably about 60% of outside noises being blocked. I do find that I can still carry on conversations with people as long as they talk really loud and enunciate. But it is better if you pop one out, you can hear and carry on conversations a little bit better. As far as louder things like coffee grinders, vacuum cleaners, loud TVs, loud vehicles, they're pretty muffled, but you can still notice them and kind of distinguish what they are. These aren't the greatest at isolation of outside noises, but once the music starts, you really don't notice it. They do a pretty good job. I'd say probably around 60% of outside noises being blocked. And as mentioned, about 4-5 hours of comfort for me before I have to take a little bit of a break. The Moondrop Kadenz is fairly easy to drive. Even being 35 ohms of impedance and 122 decibels of sensitivity, I found that the Cadence really was a pleasure when using the Echo B from Moondrop. This thing, I did not have to get very loud at all on the volume, and they were extremely loud and very well driven. I found that other dongles that I have, same way. They do scale with better quality of a source, and they do a good job of revealing differences, whether it be a warmer source or something on the more cold side. I find that the Echo B brought out a nice balance between being neutral and natural, and had enough of the analytical lean to it while adding in just a little bit of the fun side as well. And the Echo B was actually my favorite dongle to use with the Cadence. The differences between of how it's scaled with different gear was very nice, and showed its capabilities, and I had no problems with any of my dongles, DAPs, or desktop. The Cadence is pretty happy and does a good job of showing the differences in quality of product. How do the Moondrop Kadenz sound? So the Moondrop Kadence's bass is a more neutral leaning bass. It's not the most emphatic, the most powerful, and the most fun factory type of bass, but it has a little bit of it in there. It extends very nicely into the sub bass and will give you rumble and grumble and a little bit of when called upon in the track, but it's not going to be this like really reach down and just grab a hold of you type of sub bass. This is more of, this is in the track, and this is the quality of it. It's not a whole lot about quantity. Mid bass, you get a little bit more quantity, and there's a decent amount of impact, punch, and slam. But again, this is not this authoritative, just robust, just bringing it home type of bass. This is more about the quality of the bass. Very fast, very efficient, very high quality type of bass. There's good amount of space and clarity and control with the proper amount of power, punch, and slam when called upon in a track. But it's not going to be domineering. It's not going to be this like eye-popping, ear-jarring type of bass. This is a quality bass. If you want to nitpick the bass, the Cadence will allow you to do that. And then the upper bass is well controlled, does not extend into and merge into the lower mids. It doesn't bleed in there. It is a very well controlled, knows its place, knows where it's to bring things home and together without becoming a jumbled mess of bloatedness. Overall, the bass is very well controlled, very nicely extended, and has a lot of quality in its details and resolution, and excellent tone and timbre. But it's not going to be the most forthright, most powerful, most engaging type of sound. It's going to give you enough of it without being too much of it. Mids. The mids have nice note weight, nice tonal balance to it. There's very good tone and timbre, and excellent amount of clarity and space throughout. I find that the mids are very well controlled. They have just a little bit of a spotlight put into the upper mids that give a little bite, a little bit edge and crispness. But overall, I find that the mids have a very natural, organic flow to them. There's very good air and space, and you can pick apart each individual instrument and vocalist, and they all work together very cohesively, and it sounds very balanced. As you go through the registers and up through the octaves of instruments and vocalists, everything plays very well together. Nothing is fighting for attention or for being on top of each other or in front of each other or around each other. They all get their own little individual place and have their own little spot, and each one of them gets a little bit of a spotlight put on them. I find that the mids are very well controlled, very clean and clear, and have nice note weight and presence about them, and good details and resolution. Going into the treble has a well-controlled journey. Lower mids or lower treble regions and from the upper mids have a little bit more of a presence, a little bit of sparkle energy there, a little bit of biting crispness. And then as you go further up through the treble and into the highs, it becomes a little bit softer and a little more pleasurable, just to take that little edge off, and they don't become fatiguing. I found that they have just a great balance of sparkle, energy, bitiness, crispiness, without being too forthright and without being boring sounding. They can be a little bit on the dry side in the treble at times, and I find that some may find them be a little bit boring sounding, but I find that they walk the line of being a very nicely balanced and cohesive sounding in the treble. So the cadence, the bass, the mids, and the treble play very well together. They have excellent tone and timbre and a very good balanced, cohesive presentation. Everything plays very well together. There's nice clarity, and you can nitpick everything about it from the bass, the mids, and the treble. And you can go, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there, and it's all playing together without sounding confusing. I really enjoy how cohesively balanced the cadence is. Soundstage of the cadence is not going to wow you with this big, huge, massive width. What it's going to wow you with is how natural and accurate it sounds. It reproduces live recordings very, very well. It almost feels like you're right there in the moment. It does a good job of showing you different sizes of venues, small, medium, large, and it'll get grand if it needs to, but it always sounds very accurate in its presentation of the stage. Also has really good depth. You can really look into the stage, and then the imaging within the stage is also very good. It follows things across and places things very well. You can go, that's there, and you can keep everything separated, and you can really nitpick a stage very well with the cadence. I was rather impressed at the sound stage of the cadence and its abilities to be very precise and accurate in placement. Does not get confused, jumbled up at all on busier, more complex tracks. It stays very well controlled and extremely accurate in its placement and follows things along very well from side to side. Detail retrieval and resolution of the cadence is also very good. I was rather impressed at how much information was being given. There was never a moment of, wow, I'm missing something. I never had that. And there were a lot of times of, I don't normally hear this in a sub $200 IEM. And there were a lot of moments of, wow, I don't remember hearing that type of moments also. So it does a good job of retrieving details. And then the resolution of them is excellent. It's very defined, refined, and focused. Tone and timbre also is very natural sounding. It has a very neutral presentation, and it has a good reproduction of all the instruments. So you can diagnose a stage and you can pick out each instrument and you can go, that's an oboe, that's a flute, that's a bassoon, that's a trumpet, that's a trombone, that is this type of percussion, this is that type of thing. You can really determine different instruments very easily. And it reproduces strings and woodwinds very well. And I had no complaints about the tone and timbre. It sounded very natural, very accurate, with a nice balance of note weight mixed in to make things sound like they have a sense of presence about them without being too heavy and too thick and being too airy and too light. Does a good job of walking that line. So the Moondrop Kadenz. Yeah, I like this. I like this quite a bit. But I was curious, how does it compare to another IEM from Moondrop that I've enjoyed for several years? And that is the Moondrop Kato. Now the Moondrop Kato, very similar in build. The Kato is shiny in its build. Cable is slightly more upgraded on the Cadence, but the build and the fit is very similar. Of course, the tips do make a difference on the Kato, and they do change the sonics. As far as sound, with the Kato using the brass filter, or excuse me, the silver filters, I found that the Kato is a little bit more dynamic in its presentation and has a little bit more brightness and a little bit more energy, sparkle up top. But at the same time, the Cadence does better with natural tone and timbre and is a little more neutral leaning and has a more analytical side to it. The Cadence is a little bit more detailed and better resolving than the Kato, and with its more accurate natural tone and timbre, just is a little bit more on the neutral side. I find that the Kato or Kato is a little bit more fun sounding, has a little bit more impact, punch and slam, a little extension into the sub bass a little bit more, and you get this rumble and grumble, and has a little bit more of an all-arounder type of presentation. And I really do still enjoy the Kato, and I think it's a very good IEM, but the Cadence has supplanted it for me. I find that the Cadence is just more accurate and true, and is more of the neutral lean, which I prefer. So if you're looking for a more neutral leaning IEM in the same family as your Kato, I would go with the Cadence. It definitely is a more neutral, analytical leaning presentation. But if you really want more bass and a little bit more all around of a sound and just a fun factor, stick with the Kato. Moondrop Kadenz. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot, and I highly recommend it. I really do enjoy the Cadence a lot. I'm so impressed at how Moondrop has given you two different presentations with the Kato and the Cadence, but yet have upgraded it and redefined it. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information on there regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's various ways that you can do that through one-time gifts with PayPal, Venmo, and YouTube. Or you can do monthly subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube memberships, where you can get early access to videos and all kinds of other benefits. Like on my Discord server, there's some private lounges for you all to join and chat it up with others, other supporters, and also with myself. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, there's various ways that you can do that, and I would greatly appreciate it if you do support the channel. Speaking of my Discord server, that is open to the public, and you are free to join and with the fun and just have an enjoyable time getting to know myself and the others that are on the server. And then check out all the other links. There's all kinds of information regarding music recommendations, gear rankings, all kinds of stuff listed down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.